I feel like we should maybe do a couple word problems here that incorporate increases as well. So I'll throw these ones out for you. Here we have a price of a tube of super glue, which increases from $2.49 to $3.18. What is the percent increase? So in this particular type of word problem, we do the exact same thing that we did in our last video. We identify our 0% mark and our 0. The difference is this time we have 100% at the original price. So the original price is 100%, and we're looking to find out what percent increase would take us to 318. So $3.18 would actually be more than 100%. So in this example, we're going to put our 100% actually inside of our number line because we've got to find out what percent increase that would be. So we know that 100% of our price is $2.49. And we know that our final price that we want to get to and identify the percentage of is 318. We just don't know what it is. So what we have to do in this scenario is identify, again, what...
And just ask, we will have an indoors break this morning, keep the students indoors before school. Thank you.
We will have to find out what 1% is. One thing you have to be aware of, and this is important, is that we can't just take 2.49 and divide it by 100. We have to take this and call it single units. So when we were talking about grams, we talked about whole grams. When we're talking about money, make sure that you identify that it's 249 pennies. Okay? Not 2.49. Because the 2 here represents dollars and the 49 represents pennies. Realistically, does it make a huge difference in your number, the way it looks? Not huge, but it does make a difference in your understanding, and you want to make sure that you always know what you're talking about. So once we've got our 249 pennies and we divide that 249 pennies by the same thing that we divide our 100% to get our 1%, so we always need to find our 1%. We divide 249 by 100, and that equals 2.49. Now this is where it becomes important with the whole decimal thing, because this 2.49 is referring to 2.49 pennies, not $2.49. So you would get confused here if you started using the same thing and you didn't have it in your head that this is how much this was. Okay? So we have 2.49 pennies equaling 1%. So now we need to find out how many 2.49 pennies go into 318. So if we take our 2.49 and divide that by 318, not $3.18, but instead 318 pennies, we should be able to get our answer. But before we go any further, let's first off make it easier on ourselves. Instead of going all that division, let's go in here in the space between these two numbers and find the difference in the number of pennies. If we have 318 pennies and we take away 249 pennies, we're left with 69 pennies. If we find out how many 1% go into this 69, we can find the difference percentage of increase. So if we take 69 and we divide that by 2.49, that equals 27.7%, 28%. So if we were to take our 69 pennies right here, divide it by 2.49, we would identify that it can go in 27 times. So 27% of 100% should be 69, and that'll give us our increase. So our increase now is 127. Again, we can test our answer here by saying, all right, here I've got my 1% and I've got 127. If I were to multiply my original number, that being this number right here, this 249, by the decimal version of my percent, I should get my answer that represented by the 127%, that being the $3.18. So if I go over here and I go 249 pennies times the decimal version of 127%, which is 1.27, I should get a number that is very, very close to 318. 249 times 1.27 equals 316. If we were to take our answer that we had here, it was 27.7, and we would round it up. Now, the benefit of doing this test down here is that when we get our 316.23, we can say, oh, that's pretty low. That's not even really that close to 318. It's almost 2 whole cents off. Well, if I think back to when I did this and I go, okay, so I had 27.7 as my answer. If I change that to a 28, how does that change my answer? So if I try that again, the 249 times 1.28 this time, now I'm a lot closer. I've got 318 on the button. And when we're dealing with percentages, small increments start to make bigger differences. Let's do one more. And this is a great one for trying to identify pertinent information because you can quickly become distracted by Mrs. Dr. Scully's strange obsession with old tractors and the men who love them. So if we read through this word problem, Dr. Scully was recently in Chapters and discovered a book on her greatest love, old tractors. Knowing that this book would speak to her inner farmer, she hurried to the counter to buy her prize find. Unfortunately, while loving old tractors, Dr. Scully hates national book price inequity. When the cashier let her know that the American price was $10.99 and the Canadian price was $12.59, you can imagine the fury that ensued. What percent more do Canadian tractor fans have to pay than their American counterparts? Well, that is an excellent question with a lot of information that you don't need. What you do need is this $10.99 and this $12.59. And it's asking you the percentage of increase. So we have our 0% here, and we have our 0 here. We have our 100% as with the last question in the middle-ish, or in a spot where we have some space to work. And our original price, or the price that we're working from 100% of, is $10.99. $10.99 being 10 sets of 100 pennies, so it would be 1,099 pennies. And our unknown percent increase, that we want to know what percent that would go up, is $12.59 or 1,259 pennies. So, first step, let's find our differences that we know. If we were to take $12.59 and subtract $10.99, we would be left with 160. So we need to find out what percentage would fit into here in this 160 area. So we're going to find out what 1% of our original price was, and we take $10.99 and divide that by 100. We would end up with 10.99. We just have to slide the decimal over on that particular one. So when we get our